Fresh from the showcase here at Swiss Watch Expo, today we are talking about perpetual calendars from IWC and what's not to like about that. Today we have a pair of beautiful IWC perpetual calendars which just arrived, so of course couldn't pass up an opportunity to share them with you. For those of you who don't know, perpetual calendars might be the greatest and most practical complication you can put in a fine timepiece, and these are only in the finest timepieces. For those who do not know, a perpetual calendar is basically a watch that'll never need to be set again. The movement can account for every single variation in the calendar, every day of every month, including leap years. Now, no perpetual calendar is perfect, but least of all, they are going to go decades and decades and decades without needing to actually be adjusted. So realistically, as long as you keep them wound, it is the ultimate set it and forget it complication. I'm sure most of you watching this video probably knows that, but it would be silly for me to talk this much about these watches without everyone knowing what it is they actually do. The complication itself has been around for a long time in terms of horology, and it's actually not Swiss. It was an Englishman in the 18th century, I believe, named Thomas Mudge, who first put this sort of complication into an actual clock, a clock that never needed any sort of resetting other than the basic maintenance, and as long as it stayed wound, would always tell the correct time. It wasn't until much later that Patek Philippe famously brought this technology to the wristwatch game, and it's sort of taken off ever since. It's been the sort of crown jewel of just about every fine watchmaker's collection to make sure that they can do this complication. And that brings us to the brand that we're talking to today, IWC. IWC's perpetual calendars are a very important part of their brand identity, and that's because it's one of the things the brand is most famous for. In 1985, they introduced their first perpetual calendar movement, which was the first perpetual calendar that is exclusively manipulated from the crown. All the others are going to have some sort of pusher or some sort of way to quick set either the date or a moon phase or something like that to do isolated of the time or independent of the time. And you can still do that, but what's interesting about IWC's is all of their perpetual calendars are exclusively controlled from the crown. That does make it a little more difficult to set and fine-tune, but the idea of perpetual calendars is once you do it the right way once, you're never going to need to do it again. And so we will go into both of these. The one in my hand that I have right now is the IWC Big Pilot perpetual calendar. What I love about IWC's is while both of the watches we're talking about today are very similar, they are in different lines. I believe IWC has pilots, Portugueses, and Ingenieurs back when those were around with the perpetual calendar complication. So this is something that they're going to put in just about any watch that they can. They are very proud of it, and for good reason. This is a little more of a casual watch of the two, but you can expect that from the Big Pilot. The one real trademark from this line is going to be the oversized crown here, or an onion crown that some people call it, because its shape is a little reminiscent of that. That's going to be one of the first things you notice about this watch. It definitely gives it more of a sporty, utilitarian type of look, because, you know, it was meant to be sort of adjusted while you're wearing a glove or something like that. So having an oversized crown is very practical. But when we're talking about the dial, we're of course talking about a very different and very busy type of dial, because there's a lot of information you need to relay here. There's 4 sub-dials. You obviously have the time that you can tell, otherwise it wouldn't be much of a wristwatch otherwise, but you've also got to be able to display the day of the week, day of the month, the year, and the month itself. And for good measure, IWC put a moon phase complication here at 12 o'clock. Not just any moon phase, a bi-hemispherical moon phase. That's right, it is going to show you moon phase for both the northern and southern hemispheres. There is so much going on here. But what I love is, because this is a Big Pilot, 46.5 millimeters, I believe. This is a massive watch. It is very legible. It is not so busy that you are going to have to squint when you look at this to actually tell what time it is, but it still has enough information that is easy enough to read that at a glance you can pretty much see whatever information you need to know, whether you need to know what day of the week it is, what day of the month, or God forbid what year it is, depending on how long you've had this watch. But it's an incredible movement in a very nice case shape. It's perfectly round, a little bit more squared than some other things you'll notice, but of course, to have this kind of complication, it's going to require a thick case. There's just no way around it. And the case thickness here, it's a very prominent watch on the wrist. This is also going to come with a deployant buckle. This is a stainless steel watch, by the way. So definitely a military tool watch in keeping with the Pilot. As you can tell, barely worn, still the original plastic on the clasp here, and a beautiful exhibition case back displaying this incredible movement here. Really, I think you really need a exhibition case back with your perpetual calendar. Otherwise, what's the point if you're not going to really show off what makes this watch special? And special it absolutely is. Going to the next one, though, this is going to be much more of a dressy and elegant introduction into this line. This is an IWC Portuguese in 18 karat rose gold. This with a beautiful looking black dial, almost sinister looking black dial, but it's a very dressy watch that's going to definitely go to any sort of high profile function you might possibly need to take it. This is a watch to let everybody know that you are a watch collector. And IWC is a relatively obscure brand for the fine watchmaking community, so it's another reason why I think this is a great way to show off your horological knowledge by owning this watch. A lot of similarities, particularly in the dial layout, although I think you'll see they've moved the month down here to 6 o'clock. I'm not sure if that's more or less legible. I imagine everybody's going to feel a little bit differently about it. But you'll see 4 subdials, also with the bihemispherical moon phase here at the top. Honestly, most people don't really care about the moon phase, but I think it looks beautiful and it brings a lot to the aesthetics of the dial, so I'm very glad it's there. Another thing that both of these watches have that I didn't have a chance to mention is a 4-panel year window. I wanted to call it a date window, but it's not. It's a year window down here between 7 and 8. Now, it's not oversized like I like some of my date windows, but of course, that's because you've only got so much space on this dial. The dial's a little smaller than the other one. This is a 44 millimeter watch, so still huge as far as dress watches go, but definitely scaled down a bit compared to the big Pilot. I also love the rose gold plating here on the moon phase. It's just another small detail that makes this such an elegant watch, so much more elegant even than its big Pilot counterpart. And I think black too, just is a dressier color than blue. I don't really think that can really be argued. A beautiful finish on here. You've got a high polished bezel and a brushed side here, which I think is really important to get that contrast on the case. Anybody can just polish the whole thing. You're really going to need that crisp sort of division between the two parts of the watch to make this special. And the strap's a little different here too. This is a beautiful looking burgundy lizard skin strap. Again, this is a dress watch, so of course got to have a dressier accessory on here and a beautiful looking rose gold deploy-on clasp. And finally, while a slightly different movement, still a beautiful full-size exhibition case back so you can show off every square millimeter of this incredible movement. And really what I love most about these is, well, let's face it, if you're investing in a perpetual calendar watch, these are by no one's definition cheap. However, they are an incredible value when you compare them to the competition in the market. The other fine watchmakers who are putting out perpetual calendars and perpetual calendars of this quality routinely selling on the secondhand market for twice what these go for. Even more if you're looking for a rare model or an 18 karat gold model or one with a super limited production. That's not the case with any of these. Although I imagine the production numbers aren't huge, they don't advertise exactly how many are made every year. So this is, as far as perpetual calendars go, a very accessible watch. And I think that's important too. And it's great that it's somewhat able to bring the cost down of what might be one of the most impressive complications and possibly the most impressive watch you can add to your collection. I know that was a bit of a mouthful and a bit of a long-winded sort of excursion into these two watches, but rest assured, not everything that we sell is this complicated. So if that felt a little daunting or maybe is a little over the top for what you want to add to your collection, don't let that discourage you from giving us a call and liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel. I promise not everything that we share is going to be quite this expensive, and I am sure we have got the perfect wristwatch for you, be it a perpetual calendar, be it an IWC or something else. So give us a call at SwissWatchExpo.com.